coming in from Hydron, so Toronto Defiant is able to keep that duplicate for this next fight. Bob will be available, though, from Merit to make this one a little bit more of an uneven fight, but with that duplicate from Speedily, he's going to get that extra life and extra security available to him if the fight devolves into one of these.
Bob, as we've seen before, tucked into the corner, diving forward with someone, rounding that corner. COLHUGE can't get topped up. They're demeched, and there's even a pickup by 2. Ooh. Bob doing some work. That Butler is here to stay, and that will be Florida Mayhem able to swap this over and in prime position to take this round 1.
I mean, Coluge just got completely melted by the Bob and by the rest of the team. That means that there's nothing really to cover that Bob, and it was doing so much damage, and now it's desperation for Toronto Defiant, and they can't even find to get anyone on. That's going to be the Florida Mayhem taking this first round.
Yep, unfortunate, not able to get Hydron there fast enough. The timing was just perfect for Florida Mayhem to be able to take this extremely dominant play, and Toronto Defiant now going to look for the second round to see if they can make some adjustments and adapt going onto this map of ruins to make it to a third.
Seeing a lot of wholesale swaps right now onto something else. I mean, I think the Diva was really good on that map in particular because you have a lot of those vertical plays that you want to be, or those vertical geometries that you want to play around. As we're going to be seeing what the Bob is doing here. I'm interested to see how this happens. I mean, oh, it was just behind him. Yeah. Bob just 360'd and just hit Hydron, and then was like, all right, that's it. I've done my job.
360 arm no scope. That's what it's going to be.
That's unlucky if you're Hydron. You're just like 1 pixel away from not being in there.
Tension is once again being deviated. You can see Hydron swapping back. They're being overwhelmed, tucked into a corner. They can't sustain through it. And again, this is that bandwidth we talked about where it could just be so much for anyone to really handle the way that Florida plays.
Oh, and they nanoed Speed. They're trying to get something to happen. He actually manages to find one, and the Duke comes in from Speedily onto the Sigma. They don't get the ultimate, but they do get the reset.
Yep. Now playing a little bit more aggressively, forcing them back down towards the docks. 2 ticks acquired, minute and 40 seconds. There's a potential recontest here. Tech goes up top for CH0R0NG to compete against Speedily, but that focusing beam's gonna just send them back to the spawn, as this contention is really hoping that they can get a few more onto the point. But unfortunately, they're not gonna be able to do it for much longer.
Yeah, I mean, and that was all Speedily with that nano, was able to kill both of the supports in that engagement, and once the supports are gone from the Florida Mayhem's composition, the fight is essentially over. And for SirMajed and UltraViolet, they can basically stand in the backline and really pump out that damage along with Speedily, so the spam potential is really good for the Defiant, but actually they want to go and try and brawl.
Yep, they've clustered into the Nexus, the Flux is active, someone maneuvering out the doorway to protect themselves from any incoming fire. Accretion lands onto Coluge, who is dangerously low, but great recovery from both UltraViolet and SirMajed. As someone still presses forward, gets stunned, bound at the back, the Discord Orb, making it extremely challenging to withstand that free-firing Hydron in the back line. But it's still a minute and 40. The fight's not over. They press on. CH0R0NG with the rally, giving some extra protection necessary to keep this going. And again, just running the clock at this halfway marker.
And that felt like it was just a hint too over-aggressive from the Florida Mayhem there. They played way too close to the sun. CH0R0NG was just a hint behind on that rally charge, and that let someone end up going down. Toronto Defiant finish off the rest of the fight, and basically for nothing. I mean, they use a duplicate, but that's essentially it. And Mayhem, are they even going to try and contest here?
It's gonna be desperate. COLHUGE does get on top in time, and this maneuver around the back, rotating with the Deadeye, ensuring that it will zone multiple members away and deny the viability of that amplification matrix through the doorway because they can't being risked getting hit and contested, and that's going to be a checkpoint reached into the final stretch.
And one of the things that you're seeing a lot of the time with how the Toronto Defiant are playing this, and Speedy in particular, he's saving his focusing beam for when someone is getting taken down low, and is using that grasp, because grasp isn't able to negate that damage, so they can just instantly kill him. And if Florida Mayhem don't have the cooldowns to save someone, he instantly dies.
And losing someone continues to see a domino effect here. Holding this corner is going to be vital, with someone playing close to the doorway. CH0R0NG also sticking alongside to give that extra protection, especially if things get dicey up close for the inspirational healing. Coluge getting stunned. Transcendence is there, though, guaranteeing they can work through this initial damage. Flux onto 2, knocking them into the back after they remove the immortality field from Rupal, and chasing even further. The kinetic grasp blocked. Now in return, you have this amazing attempt by Coluge to withstand and just survive. The supports are carrying at the moment, as Florida Mayhem is now starting to thread the needle, and they can't seem to get a foothold here.
I mean, Checkmate is trying their best, but honestly, COLHUGE right now is taking over this game in terms of the Sigma matchup. Like, the shield usage, the increasing usage, everything is just making someone's life completely miserable. He just had a little bit of a hard time, as we're going to see the sleep dart replay here. I wonder how Checkmate ends up, like, falling here. Does he just... What? That's nuts. That's absolutely disgusting from UltraViolet. And also the sticky bombs next to the body instead of on it to make sure that the Sombra doesn't translocate out. Mwah, chef's kiss. Beautifully played.
Reaction times are on point today for moments like that. We need to see that continue to elevate from Toronto Defiant. Hack, though, comes in. Checkmate wants revenge, but there is assistance by SirMajed in the back, just looking to force back Checkmate. They get the elimination, and it's actually worth it to go back into this. They've not lost anything up front. Toronto Defiant are weathering the storm with 2 minutes and 20 to go.
And I think Checkmate needs to stop just going in by themselves into that backline. Majed and UltraViolet have proven now that you have to respect their incoming damage. You cannot be as greedy as Checkmate has been. He's had this EMP for what feels like 2 minutes. They need to find a way to go in as a unit and dive into that backline with the EMP next.
Nice suppression for the moment. UltraViolet hits a 3-player nade again, just buying more time. Hesitancy on entry. UltraViolet now with a clean sightline, goes in for the nano, but Hydron gets instantly shut down. The rocket boosters are there from someone. EMP active, but Speedily still nanoed, playing back for the moment until they can recompose themselves to go back in. Focusing beam not up just yet as they drop down below to recover, since this payload is approaching this next checkpoint. The rally is active. The Kitsune rush alongside to counteract it in these final moments. But the Deadeye, you hear it in the back. Merit looking for an angle, forcing back Toronto Defiant to give just enough space for this final meter, as the Ant Matrix should be able to turn it on its head. The bash up front gets the extra damage to take down before the remake can even come through. Just over 60 seconds, and you have Florida Mayhem entering this final stretch with 2 minutes and 40 and a team kill.
Dude, I don't know how the supports of the Mayhem kept them alive. CH0R0NG was so close to not being able to get that rally, but they were able to survive through the nano-boosted damage from that Echo, and then the ultimates from the Florida Mayhem supports completely turned that fight on its head.
So far, it might even be the one to talk about for MVP, as they want to work their way through their opponents to get even closer to that amazing Pro-Am award. As we take a look at the squads, Kenobi, no subs coming out in for this next map, but things are looking a little difficult to turn around here for the Toronto Defiant.
Yeah, but I mean, if there is a team that kind of can like reset themselves and with the coaching staff that they have, make this into a series, I think it is the Toronto Defiant. But the Mayhem, it feels like they're on another level. And one of the things that is really making them so much better than I think they were in like even the group stages where they were playing incredible is Merit's kind of ascension, right, in the playoffs. Because I mean, remember last year on Sojourn, one of the statistically best Sojourns we had in the Overwatch League, but beyond like that, there wasn't like any other heroes that Merit was like particularly great at. It was a lot of just Sojourn, and the questions were like, when we move off of a Sojourn meta, is Merit going to be that same player? So far in this playoffs, he has been. He's been incredible so far, really stepping up to the plate where a lot of the time in the group stages, it was Checkmate, it was someone. Now Merit kind of coming in as that third player really gives a secondary valve of pressure for the Mayhem to work with.
And in addition to not only just elevating their independent play, going outside of that comfort from what we've seen, it's also just the way that there is so much space and opportunity being granted to Merit from everyone else on the team. And all by those actions that they're each independently taking only further give that option for Merit to basically be able to perform at this level.
As we see the Mayhem coming in on the defensive end this time, Toronto Defiant sticking to their tried and true with the double flex support look, going to be bringing in Speedily again. And Speedily, the thing about this support line that we have to talk about is that Speedily doesn't necessarily have like a true pocket, right? Yes, you have Kiriko that can kind of just shoot the Ofuda at there, and also UltraViolet, who's very good at Ana, but with the pressure Merit has been putting down, they have to be really on their toes to make sure Speedily stays alive, as Merit's actually going to be on the Widowmaker here, so that long-range potential is something that the Toronto Defiant have to respect.
And as the payload rounds this corner, nearing that open courtyard, there's a lot of angles to be taken on this flanking area. Hydron needs to be extremely careful, though, to see how they're going to be counteracted, potentially either by Checkmate or Merit. Finding a shot just like that! And just shutting down Hydron, left vulnerable, and now going to play even more aggressively.
Yeah, and I mean, that without Hydron here in this fight, there's no way that Toronto Defiant can move forward because they've lost that ability to kind of poke and prod with that Mosquito on the side. And Merit, I mean, he's not really contested at all. Like, he's so far back in a lot of these scenarios because Toronto Defiant simply just can't get to him.
No, not at all. And Merit still planted at the moment, up top, uncontested. Once again, keeping a watchful eye for the flanking. As there is Hydron playing, once again aggressively. The mine actually lands and causes some chip damage and still continues to play so far back.
Oh, and he's looking for a shot here. Oh, Majed and Speedily are so lucky those shots did not land.
Yep, they are grateful for that as we all took a brief moment of breath. And then we're able to exhale calmly shortly after, as Majed up top sticks close. There is quite a bit of distance gained here, though, because of how far back Florida Mayhem has been playing. They need to be extremely cognizant about how they play underneath this archway now. Someone leaning in, going toe-to-toe with Coluge. As Speedily gets the nano, is there value that can be gained with it? But Merit opts for massive value with vision onto every one of the Toronto Defiant and continues to hold that archway in the back. Someone cleans up onto Speedily, and this is going to be a castle wall defense by Florida Mayhem, and somehow Toronto Defiant's gonna have to crack it.
Oh, Toronto Defiant need to get out. Nice pulse bomb from Hydron, but an even better immortality field from Rupal there keeps them alive. Toronto Defiant still poking around this. Sunera's just used on the high ground just to take it away.
Yeah, and seeing if they can maintain, but in the wings, Merit's gonna look for some shots, can't quite find a clean angle, gets a body, but not the takedown onto Speedily as the duplicate comes through. There's Hydron getting picked up again. It's just every time you step out of line and you are visible to Merit, they will 9 times out of 10 be able to land it, and continues to just put free damage. Can they get it before the rematch? The shot just goes wide!
I mean, no one's looking at Merit. Merit has just been uncontested this entire time. I don't even know if Merit's taken that much damage, really. Like, this has been a moment where Toronto Defiant are trying to just brute force their way in on the low ground and win the 4v5, but Florida Mayhem are playing around it so perfectly that it's so hard for Toronto Defiant to break that wall, and they only have a minute left, and they just have a nano boost. They use so much to try and win that and switch up their composition that now Florida Mayhem are sitting pretty here looking for that full hold.
And with these adjustments, oh
Merit.
My, yeah, remember how you talked about elevating gameplay and stepping away from the Sojourn? Yeah, this is it. This is it, Kenobi.
Oh, and Hydron just gets blown up as well. 40 seconds left for the Toronto Defiant. It feels like their chances of going forward in this bracket are slipping away a little bit right now. This is last fight territory. It's got to be off the back of Hydron with the pulse bomb, or this nano has to get an insane amount of value.
And look at Speedily. They can't freely move out into the open airspace due to the ability that you've seen from Merit on multiple occasions. And the second that they press out, even if they don't get the immediate shot, you're going to take a number of bodies waiting patiently for that as they transition up to the high ground. The Infrasite available. Merit has full knowledge regardless of where they are. UltraViolet waiting to use the nano boost. The dive in from Coluge. Little bit of separation. Can't quite get the healing onto him. Merit shuts him down. They can't chase it to get the nano onto Coluge. Everyone is getting picked. This is unbelievable play by Merit. The hit scan action is on point today.
I mean, that was an incredible defense. I really don't know if Merit took damage. I'm genuinely wondering.
Yeah.
I mean, his crit accuracy right now is 24%, which is like pretty good in terms of just Widowmaker in general, like getting those shots. It's 1 in every 4 shots. Like Merit's been, and to be fair to like the rest of the team, Merit didn't really get contested at all. Like Merit played PvE essentially, right? He's in Callum Dune or whatever a dungeon is in WoW, and he's just like fighting creeps. Like he didn't really have to do much except just sit there in the back and fire into the willing heads, I guess, of the Toronto Defiant.
And we have some additional stats for you, friends. Noah going to tell us that we have 0 deaths for Florida Mayhem on that defense. That is absolutely disgusting as we take the swamp of sides to see if Florida Mayhem can continue. But before we talk a little bit about what their comp is, we can take a look at that 2K replay from Merit on fire right now.
I mean, this also feels a little bit disjointed because like Coluge is like going into the high ground, then drops and can't get healed. UltraViolet's there, and it's just, I mean, they were trying so hard to get to Merit that it fell apart a little bit at the end, and they looked a little bit frazzled on the Toronto Defiant side. I do want to shout out, while Merit's been playing really well, the supports from CH0R0NG and Rupal have actually been insane as well. Immortality fields are perfectly timed. The whip shots from CH0R0NG being able to keep that Inspire proc going, like, they didn't die, and that's indicative of how good the supports have been playing for the Florida Mayhem, and now they have an easy avenue to get into that final.
Onto the grand finals is in these last few moments. 2 minutes and 30 to make it happen defensively. Hydron out in the open has been spy checked. They are removed from the equation for the time being. UltraViolet with this nano could look to commit onto COLHUGE when in critical mass. As they lean into it, generating the primal rage, that's going to get the first elimination onto Florida Mayhem. And now they're able to snowball with this as the primal rage unleashed. The raging fists from COLHUGE now knocking so many away. And they're able to hold the line with just over 2 meters.
And Toronto Defiant are going to need to string together a couple more fights like that.
Damage, but does have to force the translocate. Now, that buys a few seconds. Minute 25. Speedily out in the open. The shield is committed. They had to protect them before they were able to be overrun. But now the EMP lands onto 2. CH0R0NG at least got the rally out, so there is still an accumulation of armor. But 2 are down. Stick on both ends. UltraViolet eliminated, so it's all onto the Kiriko play. The Kitsune rush is being holstered, not wanting to commit it just yet until they absolutely need to, which this is the moment with 60 seconds now to deny this completion from Florida Mayhem.
What a clutch there from Speed, and a huge anti to start things off from UltraViolet onto Merit. The anti comes in, Speed gets that kill, and then Speed sticks CH0R0NG as well, so the rally gets absolutely no value, and the Mayhem, what looked like to be an easy, route to that grand final, is now being stalled a little bit. Toronto Defiant don't have anything to work with though, and Checkmate has switched on over to that Reaper just to make COLHUGE's life even more miserable than it feels like it has been.
And we'll see if that adjustment lays Toronto Defiant to rest, ending their progression throughout this bracket phase. Hacked is active onto Merit, having the Devi looking to zone back Toronto Defiant, but waiting until there is an opening to do so and gain maximum value just under 2 meters. Toronto Defiant has to contest and commit into this. The nano boost is active once again with COLHUGE diving into the back. The Hydron going to be blocked for the moment by the shield, but there's far too much damage, and they actually overwhelm COLHUGE. They're unable to get to the primal rage in time. Speedily once again needs to find a clutch pulse bomb, but goes awry. It's left in the wayside. They're unable to survive into this, and Florida Mayhem, another 3-0, continues to move on and find themselves now in the grand finals.
This team, man, this team is not to be trifled with. We